So let's take a look at some of the highlights of the syllabus. I'm certainly not going to read everything word for you, but I do want to accentuate some of the most important points in the syllabus, but please do take time to read through it all at your leisure. So let's start out with the fact that this phone number right here that's displayed will never have a human being answer it. It's a system that they set up at Madison College whereby each part-time instructor, and especially online instructors, can have a telephone number. However, that telephone message that you leave is transcribed into a message that is sent to me then through my school email. So by all means, feel free to call, because sometimes typing up a very long extended question is just a pain, and so you're welcome to call, leave your message, and be sure when you leave your message to state your name clearly, as well as a phone number if you want a return call, and I'll be happy to do so. Now you'll also notice that I use Skype when I'm returning phone calls, so you won't get a recognizable telephone number with an area code that you recognize necessarily when that incoming call comes. But I do use Skype. We don't have to use the video chat feature unless you'd like. We can just simply use Skype as the way that I will give you a return telephone call. The course information here is pretty explanatory. The title of the course is Speech, so it pretty much says what this class is all about. The course format, of course, that we're in is an online course, and we begin classes on January 13th, but you're welcome to start working on any of these assignments that we'll talk about at an earlier point in time as well, too. Our class does go for the full semester, so the last day of our sessions will be on May 9th. The class really depends heavily on Blackboard for its presentation, so it assumes by signing up for this class that you have already become very familiar with Blackboard and how it works and navigates. If not, you can always check in with the help desk, and they'll try to support you in any way that they can. The one important piece right here is that our week actually runs from beginning with week 2, runs from Saturday morning through the following Friday night at 11:30 p.m. As a rule, assignments will all be due by 11:30 on Fridays. However, there will be exceptions to that as we get into using discussion boards, which will require you to post earlier in the week. That means that the weekend will, for you, if you so choose, be used as your time to start a new week's worth of assignments, not finish up the old assignments, because everything for that week is going to be due on Friday at 11:30 p.m. The late work policy is that I don't accept late work, so it's important for you to get in the habit of getting all of your assignments turned in on time. Now, if indeed there is an extenuating circumstance, you were in an auto accident or something, please know that all excuses need to be backed up with written verification. So that might mean that you'll need to forward a copy of a note from a doctor. It might mean that you need to forward a note from the towing crew that took care of your car. You just need to produce some type of verification in order for the absence to be waived. When it comes to doing speeches, you are expected to turn in your speech on time. Again, if for some reason some untold act happens, you have to submit the verification in writing for the reason that you're asking for an extension, and then there will be a 10% deduct on any of your 4 major speeches if you have to turn them in late. You do have to finish all 4 speeches in this course, or otherwise you do not pass. No matter what your average is in class, all 4 speeches must be completed, and so that's an important piece to know as well too. I will use the announcements section on our Blackboard site, which you've already seen is the very first page you see when you come in, so be sure to check the announcements often. I do have the option to send out an email copy of the announcement, and I will do so every time I post something in the announcement section. And we'll take a tour in just a little while in the other video about the weekly folders, and so you'll see how the weekly folders work. All of your work needs to be turned in either a PDF or as a Microsoft Word document. If you need to make a transition or to transfer the file to a different format, that would be your responsibility to do prior to submitting your work. Even though this is an online environment, and you'll probably never meet your peers in this class on a face-to-face basis, it is important that you realize that this is still considered a hands-on class. So you will be interacting with each other, critiquing each other's speeches, reacting to each other in discussion board posts and so on. So it's an important to realize that even though you may feel like you're all alone, you definitely will not be all alone in this class. Now, the text for this class is one that was mentioned earlier in the syllabus. Oh, I take that back. It's coming up. It's a preview of coming attractions. And in that text, if you buy it through the Madison College bookstore, it will come with an access code to Connect. That Connect feature is a requirement for the course. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to purchase Connect separately, but just be aware that oftentimes, at least what students have reported to me, it's cheaper to purchase the whole package from Madison College bookstore than it is to go out to a third-party vendor, purchase the book, and then have to pay the somewhat increased cost for the Connect access code that you'll need. We'll be using Connect in several different ways. You'll have Learn Smart activities to do for each of the chapters, and then you'll also have videos that you'll be submitting through Connect right onto Blackboard. Now, when you start to prepare to record your work, you have to, this is probably one of the pieces that's the most difficult for some students, you have to realize that giving a speech all alone in your room is not a speech. You need to make sure that for each of your 4 required speeches, your 4 major assignments, that you have a live audience with a minimum of 5 adults. And so if you, a little bit later on, we'll see the course calendar, you can already start planning for inviting people to be your audience on, on the days that you give your speeches. You, of course, can record those speeches anytime prior to the due date. There will be written work that is required for you to submit before your speech will be assessed. Now, as you begin each of your taping sessions, your audience members will introduce themselves. They don't have to tell us much about themselves other than their name. Hi, I'm Aunt Susie. We'll be plenty, but we need to have the audience members introduce each of themselves rather than you introducing them. After they've had a chance to introduce themselves, you'll get your laptop or whatever device it is you're going to use to record your speech positioned, and then you'll be able to begin. It's important to remember that when you are presenting your 4 major speeches, your 4 required speeches, that you will need to be visible to us from the knees on up. And that is so that we can watch for the physical, nonverbal pieces of your message as well. And so that may take some setup and some practice on your part ahead of time. With your speeches, there is no editing allowed, and so you won't be, having to concern yourself with that at all. It has to be done in one take, start to finish. Now we get down to the required text information. It's all available here, and again, you can check it out and find a used book, but I would do some cost comparison before you attempt to buy the Connect card and the connectivity separate from the textbook. If you need to buy the Connect card separately, I'll be showing you a place when we do the preview of how the website is set up, how you can access and secure your Connect card. You'll also need access to Madison College email. Please do not send me personal email from your personal address. I usually don't open those emails just due to virus concerns, and so use only your Madison College email when you're corresponding with me. And of course you'll need access to Blackboard. You'll need a computer for sure, a printer, some type of video recording device, whether that is, again, a camera, a video recorder, or however. It's important to check this out early so that the quality of your video is one that will be able to see you clearly and hear you clearly. And of course, you'll need internet access as well. I would suggest a flash drive to back up your files. There's nothing worse than losing work that you've worked so hard on. Those 5 adult audience members for each of your speeches. I would consider asking more than 5 people. Usually if we ask family members, they're pretty loyal to us and they know when things are important to us. But if you ask 6 or 7 people, hopefully that would assure you of that audience of 5 people when you need to record. You do lose significant points if you are missing any audience members, and I won't accept any speeches that don't have a live audience. And then, of course, an account like YouTube is always handy as well. Although I am hopeful that our software that we have associated with our course and the Connect will allow you to upload your speeches quite effortlessly. This class is definitely one where we collaborate and we work together. The critiques and the comments that you give to each other are invaluable. I often think that you learn almost as much from watching other people's speeches as you do from presenting and preparing your own. There isn't an occasion that I can think of when I've heard someone in a public speaking situation where I haven't learned something that I really want to try to incorporate into my own repertoire, or something that I don't want to do ever when I'm public speaking. So watch carefully because there's lots to learn from each other. I have the list of learner responsibilities. Please review these. It's important for you to note. I have a note here that I borrowed from one of our English teachers at the Truex campus called victim discourse. This is the habit that just some people get into of always having an excuse why they can't do something that's expected of everyone else. It's not a good habit to get into. It sets up a real negative relationship with your instructor and with other students who may be depending on you to post things at a certain time. So please read that paragraph over and don't engage in victim discourse. My responsibilities to you, I have a pledge here. I'll let you read those over. The course abilities and core competencies, whether you're taking this class online from me, online from another teacher, or whether you're taking it face-to-face on a campus, these same competencies and core abilities are expected in all speech classes. So you may want to look those over just to see what it is that we hope you gather and take away from this experience. My reply time to you is suggested here. I do reply to email on weekends, but I'm not as reliably available. And so if you can get your questions to me by 4 p.m. on Fridays, that will help a lot. However, I will get back to you on weekends. I just can't promise how timely that will be. I've already mentioned course announcements. Please remember to log in at least Monday, Wednesday, Friday to check for announcements. It's one of my main ways of communicating with you. I try to get everything graded within a week after you've submitted it, but if I do get behind, if I'm running late, and this is a very full online class, I'll let you know when you can expect feedback from me. If you're not familiar with the term etiquette and netiquette, you might want to check out the information tab on the main menu of our Blackboard course. It's important for you to exercise professional guidelines when you are giving feedback and corresponding with other people in our course. Part of that also is a privacy issue. Any emails that we generate or discussion board posts, it would be highly inappropriate to copy those to another person and send them on their way. Even if you think it's something amusing, that's just not appropriate. So if you're not familiar with FERPA guidelines, I would also encourage you to check those out. I've already mentioned that your required email is the one that ends with your Madison College address. As far as academic responsibilities and policies, there are many areas that you should be familiar with that are available on the Madison College website. And so please click these live links in the syllabus because they will guide you into making good, sound, and wise decisions in terms of academic conduct and copyright issues and things like that. If for some reason, and it happens, people have to withdraw from a class, please know that the earlier you withdraw, the more money you get returned to you. And if you do decide to withdraw from the class, you do have to contact, and I've got a live link for you here, the Enrollment Center. So make sure that you do that as well. If you have a disability, and you're registered with the Disability Resource Services at Madison College, please make sure and send me a private email to let me know what disabilities, accommodations you have for your disabilities. And I'll be happy to try to make this course as successful for you as possible. And one of the things that some students don't realize is that in addition to your tuition paying for classes, it pays for a whole lot of services at Madison College. And so I've got a lot of live links here for you to use because even though you're an online student, you're entitled to access these as well. There's the peer-to-peer tutoring services, counseling services, advising and career services. There's a student writing center, and they actually have an online writing center tutor who you can submit work to and get feedback on the written pieces, not only for this class but for any other class that you're taking as well. And there's a link here to the online writing center as well. We have a very active and very helpful Student Achievement Center. You're welcome to contact them if you have any academic difficulties in being successful in the class. Some technical policies. I've already talked about the file format. It needs to be either a Word doc or a PDF file. And this is, cut this out, paste it onto your computer because the help desk is just so invaluable. As an instructor, they've helped me through many, many different touchy situations. And the same thing can be done for you. Even though it's an online assistance, you'll find that they can help you, talk you through many of the issues that you might have related to technology. I can't say that I remember when Blackboard has gone down. It's been very reliable over the course of the past 2 years. But if indeed there's a major, let's say you've got one of the outlines for your major speeches due and Blackboard for whatever reason goes down, please look to your college email and send any work to me as an attachment. Now that's only if we have a Blackboard blackout, so to speak. Otherwise, all of your work will be submitted on Blackboard, not emailed to me. I use the standard grading policy grading scale that's established by Madison College, and so that's represented here for you. When you look at your grades in Gradebook, it may show that you have, for instance, an A-, but when we actually post the grades for final grades, the letters that you see represented here are what translate into grades at Madison College. On Blackboard, I strongly encourage you to always check your grade. You should always know exactly where you're at in class in terms of what your grade is and how you scored on various assignments. Now, one thing that I do that may be a little bit different from other instructors you've had is that I don't use a total points system when I'm evaluating your work, but rather I use what's called a weighted category system. For each of 3 different categories, I've assigned a certain percentage of your grade. So all of the assignments that we work on in class, which are quite numerous, will constitute 30% of your grade. And the speeches, the 4 required major speeches, will constitute 60% of your grade. And the 2 major exams that we have during this course will constitute 10% of your grade, which of course translates to a letter grade. So they are important in their own right. And so it isn't a total point system, but it's rather you have total points within each of 3 different categories, which are then put together proportionately on the percentages that I have listed here for you. Now, sometimes people get confused. How do I know if this assignment went through? You'll know if you submitted an assignment successfully if you see a green box with a white exclamation point in the middle of it. That lets you know that your assignment has indeed been successfully submitted. Now, other policies pretty much specifically related to speech include the fact that the topics for your informative, your persuasive, and your special occasion speech have to have instructor approval. And please be aware that you may use a topic only once. And many of us have an issue or an interest in our life that would fit better as an informative speech, one to share information, or perhaps better as a persuasive speech, one to try to convince the audience to feel the way that you do, or to contribute to something, or to take an active role. Be careful and make sure that you save that topic for the appropriate speech. For instance, I had a student a couple of years ago who was extremely interested in whales. And so she did her informative speech on whales. But then it was time to do the persuasive speech, and she very much wanted to persuade all of us to join the Save the Whales organization. But she couldn't do it because she'd already used the topic of whales once. And so, again, think of at least two major topics that you're interested in, and which would be better for an informative speech to teach, and which would be better for a persuasive speech where you're trying to influence actions or thoughts. The special occasion speech that you'll be doing will be a commemorative speech. And it can be, we'll talk about the specifics of that assignment later on, but it can be a commemorative speech that recognizes either an organization, an institution, or an individual, and that individual could be alive or could have passed on. Another important piece here is that none of your first speeches are to be done with a manuscript. In other words, I don't want to see you reading a speech to us, because again, that's reading a paper. It's not delivering a speech. And so as a result, what you'll need to do is to create note cards for yourself, but you may not speak from a manuscript. However, for the very last speech, the commemorative speech, that one must be a manuscript speech, and you'll be submitting that ahead of time. You will be submitting, for your first 3 speeches, a required, very structured outline. And you may not present your speech until all of the written work has been submitted. The commemorative speech, again, will have a submitted manuscript prior to your being able to submit your speech. Extra credit? No, I don't do it. So please make sure that you spend quality time on the assignments that I give you each week, because there is no, magic paper at the end that you can do to complete a letter grade equivalent of work. Time limits. When you present a speech, I will always tell you what the time range is. You have to speak within 1 minute over or 30 seconds under the speech time limit. So as the example states here, if it's a 5-minute speech, you need to speak a minimum of 4 minutes and 30 seconds and a maximum of 6 minutes. And you do lose points, and that impacts your grade if you violate the time limits. This is an important note here. Even though we're an online class, there are certain things that could not be brought into a building in the Madison Technical College system, and so as a result, you may not use those things for visual aids even in an online class. After each speech, you will be critiquing yourself, because seeing yourself, while it may be a bit intimidating, is one of the ways that we learn how to improve. You'll also be critiquing other speakers as well. All of your work that you put together has to have, well, at least for I should backtrack, for the informative and the persuasive speech, you'll need to submit a works cited page, and for that works cited page we will be using MLA standards. And so if you're not familiar with how to put together a works cited page. Again, you may want to contact the Writing Center to find that out. An MLA works cited page is not a list of websites. As I mentioned, there will be 2 exams that cover the test and any lecture material that I've presented as well. And then we get into the course calendar, where you're able to look through and find all the different assignments that are due in each week. Now, this is not by any means an exhaustive list of everything that you're going to do each week. So it's a general guideline. I guess if we were studying biology, I'd say this is the skeleton, it's not the whole human body. So be aware that there will be other things due, but I did want to give you heads up as to when your major speeches are due so that you can plan for that required 5 adult member audience ahead of time as well. And of course, as your instructor, I retain the right to make any changes to the syllabus as we go on, as I see needed. And also, if you continue to participate in this course, then this syllabus does become kind of our guideline, so to speak. If at any point you have questions regarding this syllabus, I will be more than happy to answer them for you. And I think you'll find this video a helpful tool before you take the syllabus test. And again, on that syllabus test, you can retake it as many times as you want. I have to hand grade some of the items, so I'll try to keep on top of that and grade them regularly so that you can go back in and achieve the grade that you'd like. And again, contact me if you have any questions.